Morning, everybody. The dude from Skims here. www.harrysmooth.com. How's everybody been? I haven't seen you guys in a while. Nothing's really been pissing me off lately. Well, it has, but nothing I can broadcast over YouTube. Thank you, Trayvon. But let's not go there. My buddy Stewie went to Georgia last weekend. You know, had a nice little trip up there to hunt camp and sitting around shooting the shit. And we were talking about how old we're getting, and the term older than dirt came up somewhere. I don't know. And I got to thinking, wow, man, I am getting older than dirt. And yesterday it kind of hit me. It dawned on me when this kid, and he and I were talking, you know, one of these young kids that come in, get his flavored cigars, and he was going, he asked me, he says, what was your favorite fast food when you were growing up? And I had to think about that one for a minute. And I said, wow, we really didn't have fast food when I was growing up. You know, when I was real young, you know, all the food was slow. You know, he says, come on, seriously, where'd you eat? And I said, well, it's this little place I like to call home. I explained to him my mom cooked every day. I mean, she was up at 5 a.m. in the morning cooking. Phone. Look at that. Didn't have those back then. But, yeah, Mom cooked every day, got up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, when I woke up, all I smelled was bacon and coffee. And we sat down together at the dining room table, and if I didn't like what was put on my plate, I was allowed to sit there until I did like it. Or I had the choice of going to bed hungry. What a concept, huh? By this time the kid was laughing so hard, I thought he was going to suffer internal damage. So I didn't tell him the part about how I had to have permission to leave the table, or that I had to eat with my elbows off the table, or my left hand in my lap, or my napkin in my lap. Or, even having to sit at the table is a lost concept. I mean, these kids are eating when they eat, in front of the TV or the computer or in their bedrooms, laying on their bed. Ask my son Will about that sometime. Wasn't allowed at my house. But, back then, a lot of parents, they didn't even own their own homes, or they never wore Levi's or set foot on a golf course, traveled out of the country, or even had a credit card, some of them. My parents never drove me to school. Are you kidding me? I had a bicycle that weighed probably 50 pounds and only had one speed, slow. I got kids standing out here in front of my house at the bus stop that live 3 houses down, and their parents drive them to the friggin' bus stop, and they are there waiting for them in the afternoon to take them 3 houses down. I'm serious, 3 houses down, and the parents drive them to the fucking bus stop. Oh, anyway, but we didn't have a television in our house till I was probably 6, and of course it was a black and white. And the station went off the air at midnight after playing the national anthem or maybe a poem about God, and then it came back on the air at 6 a.m. And there was usually a locally produced news or farm show on featuring local people from around town that we all knew and loved. I never had a telephone in my room or a cell phone, or are you kidding me? Remember payphones? My God. Do you know how many kids are raised now not even knowing what it's like not to have a cell phone, or having to stop what you're doing to pull off the side of the road to use a phone booth, or to wait till you got home to listen to the answering machine? My God, all these self-important kids, man, or people in general, man, these phones, they dominate their lives. Pizzas weren't delivered back then, but milk was. And all the newspapers, remember, were delivered by boys, and all boys delivered newspapers. My brother delivered newspapers. I delivered newspapers. We had to get up at 5:30 a.m. every morning. Get those newspapers out. Movie stars, remember them? They kissed with their mouths shut. At least they did in all the movies, and there were no movie ratings because all movies were responsibly produced for everyone to enjoy viewing without profanity or violence or most anything offensive. How boring would that be, huh? Well, it was. And if you grew up in a generation before there was fast food, you may want to share some of these memories with your children or grandchildren. Just don't blame me if they bust a gut laughing. Growing up sure ain't what it used to be, is it? You know, my dad, I remember him cleaning out my grandmother's house when she died, and he brought me this old Royal Crown Cola bottle, and in the bottle top was a bunch of holes in it. Now, I knew immediately what it was, but my son had no idea. He thought they had tried to make a salt shaker out of it or something, but I knew that the bottle, I remember it sitting on the end of the ironing board when my mother used to shake water out on the clothes, you know, because we didn't have a steam iron. Whew, man, am I old. How many of these do you remember? Headlight dimmer switches on the floor of the car, ignition switches on the dashboard, pant leg clips for bicycles without chain guards, soldering irons you heat on a gas burner, using hand signals for cars without turn signals. Now here's an older than dirt quiz for you. Count all of these that you remember, not the ones you were told about now, but the ones you remember, and then I'll tell you what your rating is at the bottom. Now count these. Now how many do you remember? Handy cigarettes, coffee shops with tableside jukeboxes, home milk delivery in glass bottles, party lines on the telephones, newsreels before the movie played, TV test patterns that came on at night after the last show and they were on until the TV show started again in the morning. There were only 3 channels if you were lucky. Pea shooters, howdy doody, 45 RPM records, hi-fis, no, not high fives, hi-fis, metal ice trays with levers on them. Remember those? I got my tongue stuck to one time because my mom used to fill them with Kool-Aid for us kids. Oh, blue flash bulbs, cork pop guns, Studebakers, wash tub ringers, outhouses. Okay, now if you remembered 0 to 3, you're still young. If you remembered 3 to 6, you're getting older. If you remembered 7 to 10, don't tell anybody your age. And if you remembered 11 to 16, like me, you're older than dirt. Now, I might be older than dirt, but those memories are some of the best parts of my life. Now, don't forget to pass this along to your kids or show this to your kids and let them get a laugh and add some of your own to it. I'm sure all you old farts, Anderson, Stewie, can remember a lot of these. Well, that's it for today. And have a great tomorrow. Your old pal Harry Smooth. We're gone.